So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone for joining us for today's webinar, which is brought to you by the ICCE, the Institute of Certified Chartered Economists. Today we are very privileged to have one of our very own, who is a member of the International Board of Standards of the ICCE, who will be sharing perspective with us. In fact, this is an area of research interest to him. He's been working in the space for a number of years now, as a researcher and of course as a faculty. I will introduce him pretty much soon, so we get to know brief about him. But before that, for the benefit of those that will join us, that have joined us for the first time from the ICCE, I will just take the next 2-3 minutes to brief you about what the ICCE is about and how you can actually take advantage of what the ICCE is offering to become what we call the chartered economist. So I'll just share my screen briefly to do that kind of introduction. I believe my screen is visible. Mr. Baron, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, perfect. So the ICCE is the Institute of Certified Chartered Economists. It's a global association of economists, which is raising economies for today and tomorrow's economy, and for whatever aspiration that you have, as long as you believe that knowledge in economics is critical to that aspiration, then the ICCE qualification will be the ideal qualification for you. So it's an association, it's a membership base, and it's open to membership, it's open to, it's a global membership. So anyone, anywhere can actually enroll to be part of the ICCE, to join the association. And then also, if you want to earn the certification as a chartered economist, then there are certain requirements that you have to meet. A key part of this requirement is a series of examinations that you're supposed to write, which the ICCE will guide you, provide you the materials and all the support you need to prepare to finish those exams. Then you can be certified as a chartered economist. Other than that, you can just enroll to become a member of the association, and of course, you get to benefit like what we have here today, as well as any other benefit the institution offers. So the vision is to raise economist professionals with the highest ethical standard through quality education and collaborative learning. Right. So this is the governing council, the board, as you can see, myself and Baron there as part of the International Board of Standards. Now, for the membership of the ICCE, it's open to everyone. As long as you have a high school college certificate, you can enroll. So even if you're in your first year of your tertiary education, you're also welcome to enroll to be a part of the ICCE. It goes all up to professorial level, of course, in the academic stance. Of course, you have a PhD, master's, a diploma, bachelor's, you are all qualified to enroll into the ICCE. Now, when you first register, you are termed as a learner. That means that you are here to meet the academic requirement of the ICCE, which is to write the examinations. You are here to do that. You are a learner. And when you complete the examinations and all the curriculum together with the other requirements, then you earn the designation as a chartered economist. So that is when you can start using the ICCE letters after your name. And of course, you have the fellow members as well. This is not examination based. We identify individual economists that we know are contributing hugely, and then we award them the fellowship, right? So the curriculum, it's actually in 4 levels. We have level 1, level 2, level 3, and then we have the specialization level, right? So all this information that I'm giving is available on the ICCE website. I'm sure once you're joining this webinar, it means that you went through the website to complete your registration. So thereafter, you can visit the ICCE website through the various links that you have and familiarize yourself with all this information that I'm giving so that you can make the right decision. So level 1 papers are 4, level 2 we have 5 papers, level 3 we have 4 papers, and then we have the specialization. We have various specialization options available. So you can decide to become a chartered financial economist, chartered petroleum economist, energy, health, managerial, marine, labor, industrial, agriculture. So these are all specialization areas that are available that you can actually use to specialize in your area of interest. The examination is structured. It's a multiple choice examination. It's computer based. It's taken remotely. What it means is that you can take the ICCE exams anywhere you find yourself in the world, not necessarily that you have to go to examination center or sort. And exams is offered each month. July exam has already passed. The next examination schedule is in August, and then we have September, October, November, December, and then it starts again in January 2025. So any month of the year, you can take the ICCE exams, and the pass mark is 50%. All you have to do is to get 50% of each exam, and you pass, and then you can move on to the next phase. So that is about examination. Offer exemptions. We can talk about it later if you have any question about exemptions. So basically, what it means is that if you have a previous qualification in economics, you can apply for exemptions. So, for example, you have a bachelor's degree or a master's in economics. What it means is that you might have taken courses like micro, macro, econometrics, and what have you. When you submit your academic transcript, the ICCE will exempt you from those exams. So you just have to write the remaining exams covering the ICCE curriculum, and then you can earn the Chartered Accountant designation from the ICCE. We are working with a platform that gives you access to reading material, so you don't have to worry about access to material. So once you register, we will guide you on how to sign up on this platform to get access to the material that are going to prepare you, help you prepare towards your exams, so you don't have to worry about. The fees involved, the initial registration, $210, $210 USD. That's how much you're supposed to pay. Examination fees are structured according to the level and the paper. So level 1 is $59 a paper, level 2 $63, level 3 $72, and the professional specialization level is $93. All this information again is available on the ICCE website. We offer scholarship, of course. Once you register from the initial application, once it's complete and you've gotten your admission, you can apply for any of our scholarship, future economy scholarship, women economy scholarship, we have the media professional scholarship, and then we have faculty scholarship. Currently, about 80 to 90% of our learners are on one form of scholarship, whether it's partial or full scholarship. What it means is that you have a chance, at least 50% chance of getting a scholarship, as long as you're an ICCE learner and you submit an application for a scholarship team to review, and then they will get a decision after the review. So basically, that's what we have in terms of the ICCE. I'll put in my email address in the chat box. So if you have any question on how to get admitted into the program and how the study goes and examination, any specific questions you have, I'll be more than happy to assist you. I am Paul Funkon, by the way. I'm the Global Head of Membership of the ICCE. So anything concerning membership and your journey with the ICCE, I'm the guy to deal with, and I'll be more than happy to assist you in any of such circumstances. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is a brief introduction about the ICCE. So you can apply, even as you're on this webinar, you can check the website out and you can go through the process of applying online. Everything is done online. So you apply online, you get admitted online. If there's a need for us to have a virtual meeting with you, we'll have that kind of discussion with you. And then, of course, you can begin your process, your journey. There's no time limit in terms of when you're supposed to complete the program. It all depends on you, your own schedule, and your own timeline. Of course, we encourage that you can complete as quick as it can be, because, as you know, the fees are subject to review each year. So if you don't, complete early, it means that you're going to pay more to complete as the years go by. So the advantage you have is we start now, you finish now, so that you can save in terms of monetary issue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you again to this webinar, brought to you again by the ICCE, the Institute of Certified Chartered Economists, of course, in partner with the Young Global Economic Society, which is an organization that works with the ICCE for young economists. You can check the YGES out as well, the Young Global Economic Society. So if you're an economist, a young economist, or a young person aspiring to be an economist, then I'll recommend the Young Global Economic Society for you as well, for you to be a part of it. So today we're very privileged to have our very own Dr. Barun Taka as he's associate professor at Flame University. He's a professor at Flame University actually, and he's also a part of the International Board of Standards of the ICCE. And today he will be taking us through a topic on what we call the impact of water scarcity on food security. These are big issues whenever we talk about food security. We do not want to, no person or no country wants to find itself in food insecurity related issues. So we want to understand the linkages between the impact of water scarcity on food security. So the session is actually give or take in 2-3 formats, I should say. So the first part is that Dr. Barun will take over and share with us his perspective for the next 15, 20 or so minutes. And then after that, there will be question and answers. So that is when you come in and I come in as well. So we will be asking him some basic questions regarding his presentation or his insight. So you can use the Q&A button on your screen on the Zoom app. If you're familiar with the Zoom app that you're using, you can use the Q&A button. We want to hear from you. If you have questions, you can put in your question in the Q&A. I'll read out the question to Dr. Baron for you to answer. And also, if you want to make comments, you can also raise your hand and I'll give you the permission for you to speak, to make your comments. But we encourage that we use the Q&A button to bring your questions regarding the topic of discussion. So ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I will be inviting Barun to take over and share with us what he has prepared for us. So thank you very much. Barun, please take over now.
Thank you, Paul. And welcome. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
So thank you for a nice introduction. And what I was told, I mean, I do a lot of quantitative work, but when I asked yesterday, Paul, what should I present? Should I present my regression results? And what was suggested by Paul? No, you should not present a regression result. So most of my work is on water, but I try to do the non-market valuations. So I'll not touch into that practice or that from. So it will be a purely a descriptive kind of thing. What do we mean by water scarcity and on food security? So, you know, water is important and roughly 2/3 of our body is with water, and water is essential to human being. When you're talking about water scarcity, what water scarcity means, it means that people don't have adequate mean to fulfill their water desire. What is the required for that? In both way, either it could be a economic means of scarcity or it could be physical means of scarcity. Economic means of water scarcity means that water scarcity is there, but government or individual don't have adequate means to get water. But physical scarcity means there is a real genuine problem and there are different issues to tackle on those. Now, why water scarcity or why water is important in the context of food security? Because, you know, water and food are interrelated, it's interlinked. You know, agriculture required more water. And when you're talking about the industry, agriculture, and then the drinking water, so roughly we need water for drinking, we need water for industry, but at the same time, most use of water is in agriculture, and agriculture need food. So, you know, what happens due to extreme weather event or increasing occurrence of extreme weather event across the globe due to climate change and increase in global temperature slowly, you know, there has been increasing trends of extreme weather event, and that causes both water scarcity. And when water is becoming scarce, your food security is automatically deal with that. So the today talk will be clustered toward, I'll discuss some of the lessons learned from history, why there is a need of increasing water scarcity, what could be the probable challenge in response, and what could be the policy response in a very brief and in a very layman terms. You know, I'm from India, and I'll be quoting a thing from the Taittiriya Upanishad, which is ancient thing, which talks about the linkages between water, energy, and food. So it clearly tells that water is food and fire is the eater of fire, and therefore there has been a clearly established link between water and food security. So, you know, ancient literature also talks about there is some kind of relationship between water and energy. So let's talk about, when you're talking about water for food, we get food in our plate and we don't give the importance of that. So let's talk about, when you're talking in the nutrient value, we talking in terms of calorie, so let's see that some of the examples how 1 liter per calorie comes from. So let's talk about, when talking about daily drinking water, we need roughly 2 to 5 liters of water, depends on your body mass index, your body size, but roughly 2 to 5 liters of water. When you're talking about the daily household use, I'm assuming that it's a family of 5 to 6 individuals. So roughly we need 20 to 500 liters of water. Can you imagine when you're talking about 1 kilogram of grains, how much water they consume? So they consume roughly 500 to 2,000 liters of evapotranspiration. So can you believe that 1 kilograms of grain required roughly 500 to 2,000 liters of evapotranspiration based on the nature of the crops? Similarly, due to increasing population, water is going to be a stress. In the concern, if the population is going to be increased in next 20 years by 2 to 3 another billions, 25 years, we need around roughly 5,500 cubic kilometer of water. And then the key questions arises, are we able to provide drinking water or safe drinking water? And when there is a water scarcity, the food to the increasing population, that's the key questions. And based on this water or food, we can talk about the key questions like what to do and what kind of actions should be taken. So think about that. We should always think about the judicious use of water, because water is very precious. So let's talk about what do I mean by water scarcity? Water scarcity, and along with the food security, as I discussed earlier, is among the most pressing developmental challenges, because these all are the developmental challenge issue. Roughly, it's a figure of UNDP 2021 to figure, roughly 2.4 billion people live in a water-stressed country. And if you include both fiscal scarcity and economic scarcity, roughly it will be 2.8 billion people, which is exactly the 1/3 of the global population. Even from the country where I am, roughly 1/3 of the population have the similar scenario. They have some kind of water stress scenario. And this water stress not only it affects across the sections. For example, women's are affecting, indigenous peoples, migrants, and refugees have more impact than others. When we're talking about drinking water, we are talking about the fresh water usage mostly. And so when we're talking about fresh water resources, in the last 2.5 decades, roughly availability of fresh water resources depleted by 20%. Can you imagine? 20% deflation in the last 25 years. So why this happens? So we are misusing. We do not have lack of coordinated management across the various stakeholders. We are extracting our groundwater resources for lot more in developing world due to the urbanization and due to the more uses of agriculture issues. And then certainly pollution and climate change are certainly impact not only the water quality, but also the water availability, and they are deteriorating rapidly. Now, as I told you, what happens due to the extreme weather events, increase in extreme weather events, it includes both excess droughts or excess floods. It not only stress our ecosystem, but it is have a devastating consequences on global food security. And therefore, agriculture, which roughly account from 72 to 80% of global freshwater withdrawals, that is a key concern. And therefore, agriculture has the solution for all the global crises. So let's talk about what water scarcity means to food sector. We know that what water scarcity means. What happens due to increase in temperature, which you oftenly calls increase in weather and in the long-term climate. So climate change threatens global water, and when your water is getting threatened, it is directly linked with food security, and therefore climate change threatens directly and indirectly both global water scenario and food security. Now, what happens? Due to that, agriculture productivity is reducing. And what happens when your agriculture productivity is reducing? There has been an increasing food trade deficits. And therefore, when you're talking about food insecurity measurements, remain imperfect. Because when there is a increase in food trade deficits, imperfect because climate change disproportionately impacts more to the poorer and therefore more to the water scarce countries, and therefore some of the solutions is needed. So we should talk about the food system holistically in terms of sustainable diets, which is a very important part of the chain, and therefore underinvested agriculture innovation should be give more focus to enhance water and nutrition use efficiency. Now the question arises, what do I mean by food security? So food security means there are three parameters which defines food security. There is adequate availability for all the people. There should be accessibility. If availability is there, I can afford. It should not be that food is available, but I'm not able to afford. I do not have the accessibility. And third is, once accessibility is there, I should afford it also. So when these three conditions get met, so then we're talking about there is no food security. So everybody is having food security and people are not insecure about food. So it talks about there should be adequate availability of food. There should be access to the people, accessibility to that. And finally, if accessibility is there, people should have affordability. If people could not afford, then there should not be demand for that. So if these three criteria are met, we are talking about food security is met. Now, why do we need food security? A lot of hues and cries are going on the water issues, on the food security, because food security, who hampers, who spend most of their money in the food? It's the poor, and therefore always the downtrodden or poor sections of the society who get more affected. Now there is increase in natural disasters, and then when there will be increase in natural disasters, there will be a crop failures. And I have already told you crop failures is a common phenomena due to either extreme flood or flash flood and increasing droughts. It has been a very recent report, FAO 2023 report talks about roughly 691 to 691 and 783 million people in the globe faces hunger in 2022. And roughly after the global pandemic, not much has been changed. And when you're talking about the gender gap in food security at global level, it was roughly it has been increased in 2.4 percentage points before the previous year. So you can see that due to all these globally also, due to all these natural disaster and all food security and water security has been a threatening and alarming issue. If you have any questions, you can call me, or we can take the questions at the end. I'm fine with both ways. Now we can go back to the history. What lessons we have learned from the history? So if you're talking about last 75 years, roughly 3/4 of the century, all these developmental activities, so roughly 9,000, it's 9,500 to 50,000 hectares of irrigation has been evolved, and they are mostly committed to surface water. And those of you who are involved into the agriculture, still groundwater in the last 30 to 40 years has been evolved more in the irrigation. Earlier, more of the things were more from the surface water, but in the last 30 to 40 years, trend has been shifted from surface water to groundwater, and therefore, as a result, groundwater has been being severely exploited, not only in the developing world, but also from the developed world. So I can share a story from my field. I go to the field extensively. I'm a field-based researcher. So when I'm talking with the farmers, what kind of the problem they are facing, because electricity and all, some of the crops need adequate water, for example, paddy and all, and therefore they are telling the depletion state of depletions, and then what are the availability of water at 30 feet, 40 feet. Now it has been some part of my country from I am, it's not been 250, 200 feet. So just see that in the last 40 years, what kind of exploitation we have done, and more or less this story is same into the across the globe. So, you know, with the history of last 75 years, two key questions arises. Does the development benefits outweigh the environmental cost? So we are talking about whatever the benefits we talk about, does it outweigh the environmental cost? And if it is any, when we are going to stop the dubious use of water for agriculture productivity, because water has been, you have to use judiciously, but instead of judicious use of water, we have used dubious use of water. And therefore, the two key questions which we need to answer. So let's talk about those of from the scientific background. So, you know, this map clearly talks about how there are different sources of water, spring, discharge point, potentiometric surface, and then how your groundwater is getting. So why I'm talking a lot about groundwater, because groundwater is a source of both drinking and agriculture. So this way your groundwater is getting recharged through rain and through various regions. Now, if you're talking about how groundwater depletion have been overexploited, so you can see the map, two map. The upper portion map is showing you the 1970 scenario, and the bottom map is showing what could be the possible overexploitation scenario in 202100. Is roughly 75 years after. So can you see what kind of changes? If you see that this portion between these two, you can see, and from this part of the globe, you can see that even in the Latin American country, then the African subcontinent, say India and China and all these, and then even the Australia and New Zealand, you can see that across the globe, water has been overexploited. So this is the case of under 30 years, but if I could have given you a map of 2030 or 2020, so you can see the clear differences between these two. But I can see in the difference between these two maps, and it clearly tells about how we are going to exploit the groundwater. Is it clear? Any question? Any question? Any question? No question? Okay, perfect. Now, when I'm talking about freshwater resources, why I'm talking about freshwater resources? Because freshwater resources gives us not only drinking, but for agriculture purpose. So I have seen the three maps here. So in the first maps, it clearly tells what is the annual freshwater renew. And then it has been shown to North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia and Oceanic. And then same has been shown for per capita freshwater renewal and mean rate for freshwater renewal. You can see that Asia and Africa, the two populous continents, you can see that the condition of per capita freshwater renewal. In Africa, it's 4135 metric cubic meter per year, and in Asia, it's 7,110, which is not even roughly 40% of the South America and North America, even less than that. So can you believe that we are the, when you're talking about Asia and Africa, we are the most populated and that, but when it comes to freshwater renewal, also we are in bottom. So we are, availability is also at the bottom when you're talking about the renewal of freshwater, also in bottom. And therefore what happens is we are people or inhabitants from Asia and Africa, they are continue suffering, and in the future they will suffer too more if you're not going to stop the trend. So let's talk about, you know, when we're talking about the three sectors, as I told you earlier, agriculture, domestic, and industry, where freshwater is used mostly, and this data has been used till 2017, and you can see that the continent buys freshwater withdrawal by sectors, and you can see that green line, when you see in the chart, green line shows about the water withdrawal in agriculture, and you can see that in North America and Europe, industry use a lot of freshwater withdrawal, but here we can use agriculture. Can you see? Can you see here? But domestic is more or less very less here. See in Africa, see in Europe and that. So therefore, what happens here also we are using a lot of freshwater withdrawal, and therefore we have to be very curious about that. Now we're talking about the global trends on water scarcity. So there is a two map here. Left side is talks about the annual average of monthly blue water security, and on the right side talks about number of months in which water scarcity is more than 100%. So you can see that. Can you see that? These green parts. Green parts is what? There is no scarcity of water. Can you see this part? Can you see both? But what you can see that? African continent, some part of Latin America, some part of North America. Can you see the red part? Can you see? Can you see? Even India is. So what happens? So these are the serious repercussions we have to pay in the future if you're not going to stop misusing on that. So let's talk about why rapid depletion of groundwater. If you see about the country-wise, you know, India is the biggest use of groundwater resources, and you can see that India is roughly 1.4 billion population, and then we are using roughly 250 cubic meter of water, which is roughly more than double of China. And so you can see that, and we are almost similar in population. So you can understand that what will happen to our groundwater resources. And the global scenario is also same, that it is increasing trend of exploiting more uses of groundwater, and as a result, there is a rapid depletion of groundwater across the globe. Now, so until unless what policy means that we do not give the value of groundwater, we feel that water is a free resources and nature has given us in abundant, and therefore we don't give value. So therefore, there is a need to estimate the value of total economic value. Until unless we are not going to estimate the total economic value, we will not going to give the value of that. And then you know that we have to do the use value, which is for my use, non-use. We are preserving it for the sustainable development to my intra-generation, and therefore the concept of sustainability and sustainable development is very playing a crucial role here. I'm using some water, but what the current trends I'm going to use, my future generation is not going to have the water I'm going to have today, and therefore we should be very clear about the economic value of groundwater, how much groundwater carries, what is the value in terms of monetary, and therefore we should not only think about the use values, we should always think about the what could be the probable non-use values of water, because we should also think about the intra and inter-generation. So I'm consuming, we are consuming, but what not at the cost of our future generation, and therefore until unless we're not going to have the economic value of groundwater, policy is not going to give more emphasis on the water scarcity. Because when I'm talking about the groundwater, many countries do not have the policy related to groundwater, and they do not give adequate focus on the groundwater, which is the key of the R. And if you see the report, a recent report of FAO, which clearly talks about we should place these, because this is the most important issue, and the global the globe is going to face enormous challenge in years to come about the water scarcity. Let's talk about some of the city in this year in India have enormous problem of drinking water and other uses, and then the years it is going to be severe. Similarly, if you talk about the other parts of Africa, for example, let's take about the South Africa. So let's talk about the Cape Town, and then the many countries in the world are facing, and then it is going to be increased. And therefore, for that, we should understand how we are going to value. We should talk about the economic value of groundwater, and therefore we should prescribe some of the policy based on that. So now you know how increase in temperature is going to different kind of risk. So you can see that. So red color talks about risk to many, and this talks about risk to some, and then the bottom one is unaffected. So you can see that. So 1920, 100. So it's a simulated model of 200 years. If going to increase in temperature leads to what kind of scenario on different parameter, and water security and food scarcity are also one of them. So you can see that there is going to be increasing on the different parameters. Similarly, if you talk about the what could be the risk due to that, so for you can see that climate change is going to. So we are talking about climate change, and climate change have impact on that. So you can see that again. So what happens? Your increase in carbon dioxide emission from 120 years, say from 1870 to 2010 and 2100. So you can see that. So lot of will be additional risks, not only the water scarcity, but also the food security due to climate change in next 100 years. Now, this is a very interesting graph by Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which talks about when there is an annual increase in annual temperature, what kind of activity is going to happen in water, ecosystem, food costs, and health. There are other parameters, but I have taken only these 5 parameters. So you can see that what will happen to food. So there should be tendency for cereal productivity will be decline, production of all cereals is decline in low latitudes, and increase is nowhere, and therefore similarly water availability in moist tropical and high altitudes is going to increase. For no use, we need drinking water, we need water for irrigation, and therefore we have to use judicial use of water. If you're not going to create mass awareness, we are going to suffer a lot in years to come. Now, we have discussed a lot about water security. So what happens on the food security? So this is the recent report. I have taken it from the recent report of FAO 2023 report, which is the last report. And it talks about roughly we have an 80 billion population. So if you're talking about, so see that, so it's the total population. So roughly you can see that there is an increasing trend of severe foods insecurity, which is talking about the red color. So can you see that it is an increasing trend, and more or less it is more in Asia and Africa compared. So can you see? This is the global population. Here it's in so red circle is severe food insecurity in Africa, and then you can see the Northern and Latin America and then Caribbean has a less. So still Asian and African countries are more threat, at more risk due to concentration distribution of food insecurity, and therefore you have seen that even the water scarcity is also more into these two countries, and at the same time food security is also very significant in these two continents. Now this talks about the urban and rural population, and this graph talks about global scenario: Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Caribbean, Northern America. It talks about low income countries, lower middle income countries, upper middle income countries, and high income countries. And you can clearly see the distinction that rural people are suffering more in the years to come compared to the urban population in terms of both water scarcity and food security. And still those who are the agricultural or the agro-based economy, more populations are rural. And when we're talking about the Asian and African continent, we have more or less the same kind of scenario. So this is a more alert to these two continent or subcontinent that increase in climate change or high climate change or due to increase in climate change, water scarcity and food security is going to be severe in these two continent or countries compared to the rest of the world. And lower middle income country is going to suffer, sorry, low income country is going to suffer more than the upper middle income country and high income country. Can you see that? This is for the low income country and this is for the high income countries. And that is it's a concern because still more population is coming from the low and lower middle income countries, and therefore water scarcity and this is going to make will also make a very serious scenario on that. Now the last point, and then I'll be stop for the question and answer. We have talked about the water scarcity and food security, but what could be the socioeconomic problems due to contaminated water and that? So I have categorized, I have taken it from one of my recent published work. So I have categorized into 5 categories. Human health is going to impact social, environmental, ecological, and economic. And then you can see and you can see that there is a increase in soil fertility, environmental, and so therefore decrease. So there will be decrease in soil fertility, decrease in productivity, and therefore when these two are going to degrade and contaminated, there is an increase in food chain problems. So it has another impact on the health. It has also impact on the food security. So it has both impact. It has impact on the food security as well as it is going to impact the global food chain system, and therefore it has more repercussions than only the food security. And you can see that other kind of health and other economic, socioeconomic problems. Now, what I should conclude, water scarcity and food security are interlinked, and it is one among the biggest challenges global system is facing. And earlier we were talking about very limited use of groundwater, but now we understand that there has been the multiple facets of groundwater. It has been evolved and now need to put it on a high agenda because a lot of countries do not talk a lot about groundwater. Although initially, in the last couple of years, it has been started. Now therefore, there should be more emphasis on governance related issue on groundwater, with increasing awareness among various stakeholders. When I go to the field, I ask people if there is a bad quality water, what will happen? The simple answer is that I'm taking it from generation. My grandfather has drank it, my father and me, and then my children. So that is not a scenario because the quality is deteriorating. It has impact on the health and other dimensions, and therefore the awareness is missing and it's a big concern. And therefore there should be a strict policy and planning on the uses of water and more into the groundwater, both in terms of structural and non-structural financing, where this needs a lot of finance. And countries have different kind of problem, and therefore both structured financing and non-structured financing are needed. In addition to that, we talk a lot about resilience plan, and then I think since water security and food scarcity are interlinked, and therefore there should be a resilience plan on water security and food scarcity, and therefore we should also try to estimate the total economic value of groundwater and food security until unless we are not talking about what is the concerned loss and what it could have been benefited if this loss could not have occurred due to water scarcity and then associated the food security. We should have more strong advocacy on the policy side on that. So that's all from my side. I'll be really glad to answer your queries. And then my last, before stopping, serious request to all of you, think how to preserve and protect the water sources, so that we should be always think about how to use the water judiciously. And once we do that, some of the problems we are going to solve automatically. Thank you.
Yes,
Paul, should I
thank
take
you.
more time?
No, it's fine. It's fantastic.
I was told to take 20-25. I took 30 minutes. So
yes,
sorry.
yes. No, that's great. Yeah, you've done well. Thank you very much. You can stop sharing your screen now.
Okay, so just perfect.
Yes,
Thank you.
perfect. Yes. So thank you very much, Barun. That was very insightful, walking us on the journey of water related insight, and of course,
I have not
linking.
presented anything model and all because I was told not
Yeah,
to
yes.
present
I mean, it was very
complex.
insightful. What I mean, together with
Yeah.
the security and
Mm.
showing the map and what it means for certain regions of the world, the Africa, Asia, more specifically, and the kind of risk, surrounding water security and food security. As you can see, in most of the cases, these are the regions that are going to be impacted the most. Lack of us in terms of the fresh water per capita that you mentioned, very, very insightful, and what it means for these regions and what can be done going forward to be able to secure the futures of these regions. So it's very, very insightful. So at this point, we'll be welcoming questions from our participants. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, please make sure you send it through the Q&A. I'll read it out to. But before that, I have a question for you. I'll read the question out. Any question that come, I'll read it. But before that, I wanted to ask about the issue about technology. The world of the age that we find ourselves in. Technology is playing a key role in almost every aspect of our lives. And of course, we cannot talk about water, scarce as you can say, the accessibility and the cleanliness of these water that also make it drinkable for human consumption, all of that. So I just wanted to ask what role that technology play. I'm sure there are water technologies that are available. So what is the scope of these in terms of technology, in the conversation that we have in water scarcity and food security? What is the role of technology in this, surrounding this year?
I mean, nobody will disagree that technology won't have a role to play. Technology has a very strong role to play to provide safe source of water, and that is going to reduce the, but the biggest problem with technology is that technology should be user friendly. Okay, most of the technologies are complex, so until and unless technologies are not going to be more user friendly, it is not going to solve the problem. I can share you my direct field experience from India and some part of Nepal, because I have been field to a couple of states in India and from Nepal. So I work on the water contamination, for example, heavy metals presence in water, other contaminant in water, which has the direct and indirect skin or health problem. Now, government and then the intergovernmental agency bring a lot of water, a lot of technology, a lot of money, pumping money like anything. But these are not useful because they are using a technology, but who is going to handle the technology, and the operation and maintenance part is a big problem. So, one thing is technology is fine. There should be a technology, role of technology essential to improve the betterment of water in both at the domestic use, at the industrial, and then the agriculture use. But, at the drinking water front, until unless it is user friendly, we are not going to have a problem, solution. First thing. Second thing is that awareness is a key drive. Mass awareness by different channels, by government agency, by individual, by NGO, by whatever channels we have to create mass awareness, that is need, that is must. So what happens when you're going to field and asking people, what is that? But people are not aware. Are you aware about the quality? People are not aware. So, these two things are important. So, technology must, and I'm a big advocate of technology, but then technology should be a user-friendly. Until unless it is not user-friendly, that is not going to solve the problem.
Great. Thank you very much for that insight. So my next question before I read the question here, which probably might be my last question.
You can ask. I'm here for.
Yeah. So it's about international cooperation, right? Of course, the world we used to getting this global mobilization and to tackle a lot of issues. For example, we have climate, we have COP, thing that happens that talks about the climate change and all of that. We have the 2020 SDGs that we have. So I just wanted to ask, is there any international cooperation at the global level or regional level that are notable, and how are they, helping to do, more in terms of, water scarcity and food security?
I'm not the right person to comment on that, but to be honest, water is a global issue. It's a global problem, and you can't solve it locally, and therefore there is a need of intergovernmental, international agency to solve it. There is no doubt about that. Since it's a global problem, and you know that water do not have boundary. Many a times there has been, I should not open this in recorded session, so I should not open it. So there is a global war going on between two states, two nations, due to water. And then you are aware about that Asian country, African country, Latin American country, everywhere war due to water is going on. So to tackle those issues, you have to think about the three stages at three level. Some of the problems should solve at the regional or the local level. You don't need a national policy for that. Some of the interstate problems should be at a national level. And some of the problems, there should be the intergovernment panel on that to solve the problem. For example, the river which flows into two countries or more than two countries and which is used by every citizens of the concerned country, for that, there is a requirement of intergovernment panel to sit and discuss. Until unless they're not going to discuss, for example, if global body only is going to discuss, that is not going to solve the issue. So along with the global body, the representative of those concerned country has to sit together and solve this. Until unless they're not going to do, this problem is not going to solve. And then I'm from India. I've seen there is a river war. There is a war for water is going on between the neighbor country, a couple of neighbor country, and that is more or less everywhere. I was in Latin America. I have seen the same scenario. I was in Europe. I have seen more or less same scenario, little lesser, and then African continent. I've not been to, but I have seen through the research paper, newspaper reports, that is the rampant scenario. So we have to think about the three-layered solutions for that: local, regional, and global. And based on the scale of problem, we should think how to tackle it.
I agree with you. That's perfect. I totally agree with you.
I have a couple of questions. I think some of them
I'll read them. Yeah, I'll read them to you. Yeah. So this one is from Ademola. Can you hear me?
I can read if you don't mind.
Okay.
So I can see what level of intervention or legislation should be applied in sub-Saharan countries by the government to improve awareness and adherence to sustainable practices for groundwater security? It's a very important question, and then I love to answer because I work on groundwater security. Awareness is the key. Government should not invest, that's fine. Government should make a strict policy, may penalty, and may advertise awareness. Trust me, it will automatically solve 70% of the problem. Rest 30% problem, government has to make a mitigation plan. So that will not go for the entire sub-Saharan countries. For every country, some of the problem will be regional, some of the problem will be local, and some of the problem will be between the two nations. So one solution is not going to work for that. So, and therefore, there should be a stakeholder from the different sector, they should sit together and then discuss about that, what should be the solution for that. So, I mean, I can't talk about solution, but what I can say you that government should use all the means to improve and increase the awareness of the citizens of the nations. Until unless this is not going to happen, trust me, one thing is that, other thing is technology, and third thing is that, we are ignoring a lot of indigenous knowledge, which is available in every country. So we should not forget that. We should use that. That has been very useful. And I can tell you my experience. When I went to the field, I used field test kit to test drinking water. And then when I was talking with a 85-year-old farmer, and he told me that traditional technology, which he has practiced from his grandfather, and I use for that iron testing, and trust me, there is not much difference between the field test kit, which I have to spend 150 rupees per Indian rupee, say 1.5 or roughly $2 for each test. I have done 1,000 tests. It could have saved me $2,000, which is a huge money for me as a researcher when I was doing my PhD. And then that gives me more or less similar kind of results. So, many a times the solution resides with the indigenous knowledge. Preserve that, discuss with that. So, that will be really helpful to give some of the sustainable practices, because indigenous knowledge are more sustainable than the technology. Technology has some problem also. What you're going to discuss with the leach, what are going to the residue of the, which is a part of technology, actually is going to leach the groundwater, and groundwater is going to become more, so, the solution is that to awareness and then try to improve your indigenous technology. So this is the answer to Edemola Bolarinde. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. And I can see one more questions from, given the increase in water scarcity, how can African nations climate-proof agriculture in order to avoid food insecurity? So one simple answer is that to produce those food grain which is water resistant, need less water. For example, last year FAO has declared years for millets. Millets don't require, I'm aware, I'm hopeful everybody is aware about millets. So millets don't require that much of water. So what could have been, perhaps the water stress or water scarce region should give more concentration on millets, so that might be one region, immediate region to, because they have more nutrition also compared to the general food or staple diet we're talking about. And in that way, they are more sustainable also to climate, that save a lot of water also. So that will be the direct answer to anonymous attendee. One thing is that Edemola Bola, many thanks for the insights. Sincerely appreciate if you would share your contact details, would like to take this conversation further. Sure. So I'm writing my, should I write in question and answer or chat?
Chat. Is the chat? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm writing this, my email ID. So this is my email ID, and feel free to mail me. I'm sure that you will get a certain reply for that. Usually I reply to my emails.
Yeah.
Thank you,
very
Paul,
much
for inviting me.
Thank you, Baron. Yes. So let's take your last comments, your last remarks, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Water and food are two essential elements. We can't survive. We can't live without water and food. And therefore, when it comes to scarcity of one, that is water, and security of other, that is food, is interlinked. So if I have to give message, we should, nature has given us abundant amount of water. This is all created by us. So we should always use judicious use of water. Most of the problems is automatically get solved. And then rest, we need some intervention at the mitigation aspect, the adaptation aspect. That government is going to do that. But we as an individual, we have to take a vow that I'm going to use judicial use of water. I'll not misuse my water. if we take a vow, 70% problem is automatically going to solve. Still, nature has given us an adequate amount of everything, but we have to just use it intelligently. Be rational on that. That's what I can say.
Yes, thank you very much, Baron. Thank you for sharing this insight with us. So this session has been recorded in due time. We'll arrange it, put on a YouTube channel of the ICCE, and we'll share it again via email so that everyone can rewatch, and of course you can share with your network as well, so that those that couldn't join us can also benefit from this insight. So this webinar has been brought to you by the ICCE. These are in-between webinars that we host to share perspective with global speakers. Today happens to be our very own Barun, who is a part of the International Board of Standard of the ICCE, and also a professor at the Flame University in India. So for you that join us, we thank you for making the time to join us. You can follow the ICCE on all our social media channels so that you can get updated with all the news and everything that we're doing, so that next time you can also join. And of course, can invite everyone. Barun, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you. It was nice, Paul. See you soon. Bye-bye.